So thank you, Chris, for inviting me to join you today. I am going to talk a little bit about badges, specifically open badges, which is the up-and-coming best-of-class open standard for doing digital badges on the web in an interoperable way. And I'm going to be operating at a pretty technical level today, although I think I'm talking about technologies that we all use every day as a touch point, so I don't think it will be difficult to understand. But I'm really looking forward to getting started. So first, a little bit about myself. I got involved with digital badges in 2012. And the story starts a little bit before that. I was in jury duty here in Oregon and was watching on Twitter as folks at the Mozilla Festival, then called the Drumbeat Festival, were really laying some of the key groundwork for the Open Badges standard. These were representatives of the Mozilla Foundation, Peer-to-Peer University, MacArthur Foundation. They had this idea of, what if we take the concept of digital badges, these visual symbols of accomplishment that are pretty common in gaming, growing, in a number of different markets around the web. What if we standardize this and use them for educational achievements where they are portable and verifiable? And so they had this idea, they came together, decided to really turn this into something real. MacArthur put down a bunch of money behind it and really started kicking it off at the Mozilla Foundation. Fast forward a couple of years to 2012, and I was, noticed again how this project has taken off. I could immediately see the potential for how this could really change the way that we operate on the internet and how we understand our relationships to one another and our relationships to learning opportunities. So since then, I started from participating in the Mozilla conference calls to taking a leadership role in the Open Badges space. And I'm now the principal author of the Open Badges specification itself with IMS Global. And I have taken a role at Concentric Sky, which is a 70-person software development shop here in Eugene, Oregon, where we're building some of the leading software that implements the Open Badges standard. We built the Badger platform. So in those couple roles, I deal mostly with the technical side, building the technology that allows folks like you to take advantage of digital badges and build really meaningful experiences that integrate them for your students. So let me go ahead and jump into full screen mode on my presentation. And Chris, you can tell me, did the screen share work? Is it working?
Yeah, it's working.
Okay, sounds good. So I've called this talk Next Generation Architecture for Trust. And I'll talk a little bit about where we are today in terms of the internet, where we came from, some of the key technologies that are helping us mediate trust information on the web, and how digital badges, specifically open badges, can have the potential to really take our ability to understand the world through a trust lens to the next level. So first of all, just a little level setting. Open badges, here's a good definition. I think of digital badges themselves as visual symbols of accomplishment. They mean a particular thing, they're associated with your identity, and they have that really strong visual component that signifies meaning about what a particular accomplishment was. In education, they can stand for all sorts of different learning achievements. Open digital badges are a common language for data about achievements. This is an open standard that many different players in the industry can implement so that when they are using digital badges to describe achievements, their badges are portable, verifiable, and interoperable. A few of the features of open badges are that people use these as tokens of trust, trust that a learner has achieved mastery in a skill, for instance, or trust in an authorization to perform a specific thing, or that someone can do a particular thing. Open badges are portable and verifiable. Learners can take them with them into wherever they go on the web. They're digital files. You can print them out, of course. We're building some cool features around printed certificates that have QR codes that link back into the digital world. But really, this is a connected technology. It operates natively on the web. So badges can flow anywhere that URLs can flow, and expect anywhere that web images can flow, including to social media profiles, websites, blogs, email signatures, all sorts of places where you talk about your experiences with people that matter to you. This is a distributed and open ecosystem. That's really important, and I'll come back to that in a little bit. Anyone can join, and there are thousands of organizations that implement open badges, dozens of different software applications that implement this badge, and these are distributed to all corners of the web. They're not one centralized platform. The idea of badges is that they can connect learning opportunities and achievements. They can show a progression of your progress over time and share that story of your accomplishment. So digging in a little bit more deeper, what are the different things people are using digital badges to represent on the web today? First of all, hard skills or soft skills. So specific job requirements, and also those things called 21st century skills, soft skills, the types of things that require different types of assessment. For all badges, there's usually an assessment process involved. It varies depending on the purpose of the badge. Open badges really open the ecosystem of learning recognition beyond the skills and accomplishments that appear in traditional forms, such as degrees, transcript, data, around course completions, to any type of achievement that you can describe. And that means that you can break courses down into their little component modules and award badges for each of the achievements that students are making in those courses. You're using badges to make learning claims. What do you trust to be true about the recipient? And you as issuers, primarily, that's probably the role most of you will fit in the room today, although I'll talk a little bit about how the roles are broadening in 2017 for open badges, and that we hope that most people using badges can act not just as an issuer or as an earner, but as a combination of issuer, earner, and consumer badges, switching between different roles at different times. Badges are used for a bunch of other things as well, not just skill or mastery recognition. They're used to recognize participation, for example, at conferences. I hope Chris is giving you some badges for your attendance today. Official certification, so industry certifications. There are a number of badging platforms that really focus on these sort of high-value, very formal assessment-based systems. Authorization to do things, similar to the key card that you get to be able to get into the restricted area in the building. You can use digital badges for things like that to represent that a particular individual is authorized to do something. And also recognition for informal things, the social and interest-driven spaces, such as involvement in different communities, including open source communities. With a lot of folks using badges to recognize contributions to open source software. So, as an example of a badge, you can go earn your first badge today. This is the Badger Web Explorer badge. Badger is the platform that we build here at Concentric Sky. And the Explorer badge just represents a little bit of advanced skills using your web browser. So if you go to explore.badger.io, I expect probably all of you will be able to pass the little quiz right there and claim this badge for your very own. Open badges have a variety of metadata associated with them. They're not just that visual symbol. They really aim to describe an achievement in depth, to whatever depth makes sense. This one's a very lightweight achievement. It just teaches you how to use a couple of slightly more advanced features of your web browser, and certifies that you've done so. So it's just describes a quick activity, but badges are verifiable, so there you see that big red verify button. Once you've earned your badge and you go to share it, this will be the sharing page, and folks who want to verify that that badge is authentic can go back and use common tools in the ecosystem to make sure that you actually did earn this badge and that it hasn't been revoked. And they can really explore this metadata in terms of what you had to do in order to get recognized with that achievement. So here's a couple features. So in 2012 and before, when I started coming into the ecosystem, I found the questions that badges were purported to be able to answer really fascinating. I thought that there's a lot of power that people are talking about here, and badges are aiming to operate on some of the most valuable questions in education and in employment. So here's a couple examples, and I'm going to return to these questions a few times during the hour here. This is, think about what do we want to know about someone's achievements, and what data can we bring to bear on those questions? So what type of skills does a learner have? If you're looking at a particular applicant for a job position or a particular person, are they prepared for a particular purpose? We've got these requirements. Do they meet those requirements? And then sort of more broadly, if you're looking at the pool of applicants or possible people you might approach to collaborate with, who out there has the relevant experience that you might be looking for, both for employment, for forming teams around collaborative projects, working on open source, any of those sort of thing. Badges purport to be able to describe what people can do and what they have done, and be able to sort of provide discoverability into who has different skills. And then for individuals who are earning badges and going through learning programs, badges purport to describe the progress that someone might be making toward their goals. You can use badges to set goals, and then as you tick them off, you can use badges to measure your progress toward your goals. And then, discoverability. What are other learning opportunities that would be a good next step if I've earned these 5 badges so far? What are the next 5 that I might consider going for? So I'm going to return to those questions, but I sort of wanted to set the stage by talking about a technology that probably everyone in this room is familiar with at least a passive level. You experience this technology, you're kind of immersed in it almost every day. Of course, maybe you use a different search engine than Google, but the technology that I'm talking about is Google's PageRank. And this was developed starting in 1996, and then formalized with the founding of Google in the late 90s and early 2000s, and refined up through today. And I'll tell you a little bit about this history. But I'll start out by just taking a step back and asking what is on the web? What is the data out here that is covered by search engines? At first the World Wide Web was just a handful of web servers, these different machines that are hooked up to the network. They each had a network address. The domain name system allowed you to associate names with those servers and then access them by name. You type in google.com and you go to Google. And so in order to make sense of this, you either had to know where you were going before you started the journey, before you went to the address bar in your web browser, and you tried to locate a particular machine that would serve you a particular web page. You have to make sense of this. And so software companies came along and tried to map the space and understand it. And at first, you had a couple different strategies. You had the Yahoo strategy, which was a curated directory. There were keywords. Humans went in and edited. They found web pages. When they found a new web page, they would add it to the directory filed under the appropriate keywords. There were things like Excite, which did a whole lot of textual analysis, providing information about which pages might be relevant to a particular search query based on the similarity or the closeness of different word pairings. It's really interesting stuff with their algorithms there. And then you had a bunch of other different providers come on, hybridizing these strategies, competing and improving. But there was one key innovation that Google made that really took search engines to the next level, and it was a major paradigm shift in understanding what is the value of a web page. And so this question, what is the value of a web page? web pages certainly have different quality. Folks who are involved in education probably have all given the talk to students about information literacy and about how to assess the quality of a web page. Back when I was in high school, when Google was forming, there was a lot of discussion of, if it's a .gov page, it's reputable. If it's a .com, maybe you've got to watch out for commercial incentives. And the conversation has certainly progressed some from then. But in large ways, we're now depending on technology more and more to be able to answer this question of what is the value of a web page, or what's the relative value of multiple web pages. What PageRank brought to this was sort of a democratizing concept that we're going to use data that is on the web to understand the relative value. And we'll build an algorithm that maps the relationship between different pages in a connected graph of links, and weight the value of those different pages depending on who else thinks they're good, with the basic assumption that a link incoming to a web page means that someone cares about that web page. And we can use that as a trust input when we are talking about who trusts this web page to be worth it. So the big idea with PageRank was that you're going to be weighting the site based on the quality and the number of the incoming links. They have this clever recursive algorithm that simulates some web traffic with different sort of probability losses as a simulated crawler moves around the network, and it builds up this little bubble graph conceptually that you're seeing here, where sites that have lots of incoming links are worth considerably more than sites that do not have any incoming links. So for example, if you look at site A there, the blue bubble, it only has one incoming link, and so it's worth a little bit, but site B has a whole ton of, the red one has a whole ton of incoming links. It's worth quite a lot. Now you also see site C only has one incoming link, just like site A, but site C is worth a whole lot more because the incoming link is coming from a site that is well trusted. Is the only outgoing link from site B. So in this way, Google was able to assign a single numerical value for the value of a page, and that's one of the factors that they used in sorting the relevance of your search results. What gets onto those first 10 blue links on your search engine results page? So this was a really big paradigm shift from the technologies before that were based solely on the textual analysis or the directory human curated approach. In one way, Google really felt that this was a democratization of value judgments. And particularly they felt that because they were using the type of data that was naturally generated on the web as part of how humans just used it. Anyone who's publishing anything on the web, what they created was links to other pages, content and links, and they valued the content by the value of those links. And this was a really interesting way to make sure that Google had enough data without excess human intervention, without spending massive amounts of capital building that human directory. They were able to map a very large portion of the pages on the open web and understand the value of a lot of pages without needing to go through a whole lot of new effort to add a page to that directory. So Web 2.0, you probably heard the concept. This was sort of the transition, another paradigm shift that's parallel to this, but slightly outside of the story I'm telling, where the web became a place where all of us, the everyday users of the web, switched from being mostly a consumer to being a hybrid of a consumer and a publisher of data, where every time you used the web, you would be making a comment on a blog post. You'd have your own blog. You would have, it became much easier to have a site of your very own. You didn't have to use GeoCities anymore. A number of broader options came about, WordPress. This was pre-social network still, but starting to get into the social network world where everyone is just producing data, and eventually that boils down to post, 140 characters at a time, always generating links all day long. And so the Google's algorithm spread into this world naturally, in that this is what it was built to handle. It's built to handle the generation of links. As that happened, people were able to check your page rank. And then because people had a window into the algorithm, into how this very important service, Google, understood the value of their page, they were able to respond to that data. And in some ways, they were able to game the system. And in some ways, people who understood how the system could be manipulated, they understood what type of links created the right kind of value. They could settle that ability. And so you had, a massive growth of the SEO, search engine optimization community. Loads of companies selling the ability to consult, tell you how to get your website onto that first page of results for the queries that mattered to you without directly paying Google for advertising or just getting to those natural results. And in some ways, this is positive. People should understand the algorithms that mediate people's experience of the world, and they should be able to respond to them. And in some ways, this created the ability for people who had the money to just win the game. And so, what Danny Sullivan, who's one of the leading commentators on search engine technology, says is that link networks were the super PACs of this election. They were the representative of who could buy the power, and the people who could buy the power got the results. They got onto that first page. If you were a competing company and you didn't have the money to outspend your competition, then you probably would be on the second page instead. So Google's response to this is in 2016, following about a 5-year transition, they go back to making the page rank results secret. So you still have a sense that yes, links are the most important thing, but the factors, the weighting of the factors, and the actual result that Google's algorithm is producing for a particular page is no longer available to individuals. We are now operating in a world where the algorithm is opaque. We do not understand exactly, what the effect of our changes to optimization strategies is going to have on the search page. And now also, Google has gone much deeper into personalized search results. So that if Chris and I both searched for the same term, we would get different results in some portion because of our own web browsing history that Google's aware of, because of our own social networks in the graph. So Google's really leading the way in trying to make relevant search results to your queries based on who you are and what you already know in the network, which makes the SEO game a lot less predictable and a little bit less profitable for just dumping some money into it, creating the 10,000 pages out there on the web that have incoming links to your site. There's a lot of protection against sort of spamming the web with links like that are not naturally generated by the users. But still, we're dealing in the currency of links where that thing that is just naturally created as a product of using the web is the thing that helps us mediate understanding the web. So let's turn back to badges, and answer a parallel question about badges. What is the value of a badge? We talked about what is the value of a web page. How do we understand this? What are the data inputs? What is the value of a badge? So, first of all, just like search engine results are in 2017, depends who's asking. The value of a badge produced by a company here in Eugene, Oregon, for we work in Python here in a programming language, so for Python programming, for our company, we might value the local school's badge. We might value the University of Oregon or Lane Community College's programming badges, and we might have strong familiarity with the the assessments that went into them, the faculty and the learning opportunities that drove them, and we might have just having access to those programs, being able to send people to them and get people back out of those programs could really impact our understanding. Whereas folks in Pennsylvania, you might value, you might value Penn State's badges far more than University of Oregon's. So there's a couple different layers. Some of them are, who are you? Are you a potential recipient of a badge? Is that why you're asking what the value of the badge is? Are you the issuer of the badge and you're trying to understand your impact in the world? Or are you the consumer of a badge? Are you looking at a particular achievement that has been conferred on someone and trying to understand, is this really a good representation of the skill? And so let's think about what the data inputs are that could help us answer these questions. Do you know the issuer of the badge? Are you familiar with the University of Oregon's computer science program? Do you know how good it is? Do you know what their specialties are? And then is this achievement relevant? Okay, so maybe it's a Python programming badge, but maybe it's a big data statistical analysis based badge, and I'm looking for a HTTP request, like real web server style set of libraries that I need someone on, and big data and statistical analysis don't really play into that very well. So many people have written on this question about what's the value of the badge. One of my favorite, of course, is Carla Casilli, who in 2015 wrote this post about the prismatic value of badges. And what she means by the value of badges is prismatic. You think of a prism as a piece of hardware that splits a single beam of information into a set of individually distinguishable range of information, some different bands that contain, in this case, the case of light, it's colors, but in the case of badges, it's different pieces of information, different perspectives that come together to form that overall beam of value, to a particular consumer. So she identifies, personal value, that's both for earners, issuers, and consumers, institutional value, social, and consumer value of, is this a worthwhile skill badge for me to recognize and to turn back into some kind of real world opportunity, like a job or promotion or a new opportunity. And then the idea of sort of like an exchange rate is if I get like 3 Python badges from the University of Oregon, which each take about 16 hours of work to do, is that equivalent to a badge from Penn State? It takes about 40 hours to do in Python programming. How do we understand the relative value of badges and make comparisons across people who have earned different badges? Or one who's earned a traditional college diploma and one who's earned a set of 25 badges from a software development accelerator. How do I compare these people? So more broadly, the question of understanding the value of a badge is the question about understanding the value of data on the web. Not necessarily in the PageRank case where we're understanding web pages as the only object of data. We're moving into a world of what's called linked data, where there actually is, are these documents that describe concepts. They're structured, they're regular, they follow patterns, and we can model them and build relationships between them. We can build services that help us mediate this value, as long as we understand what the trust inputs are, what makes a badge meaningful, valuable. So the state, I wanted to investigate, what is the state of trust on the web right now more broadly? So first of all, the web is a tool that just gives us access to, more information, to massive amounts of information compared to 50 years ago. So much more instant. We get so many perspectives, and we have so many answers to every question. So if you enter a question into Ask Jeeves, you'll get back a huge amount more information than your grandparents were able to get if they ask a question. They might have access to the perspectives of the people in the same room as them, the perspectives of the authors of the books on their shelf, or more broadly, heading down to the library for slightly less instant access, access to a broader world of information through that technology. The state of trust on the web right now is mediated by algorithms. So we talked about PageRank as one algorithm that mediates trust on the web. But I wanted to just, make sure that you're aware that algorithms are everywhere on the web. And they are mediating how you understand. If you've ever been frustrated by the fact that when you're on Instagram and you're seeing posts from 3 days ago and you wish, man, I wish I saw that post 3 days ago, I would have gone to my friend's barbecue. Or, oh, that local food truck to me they were doing the short ribs today, and they only do that once a month. Man, why did I miss that? You have the Twitter, which started as a straight up river of reverse chronological information, and now you have things like the in case you missed it box on Twitter, where if you haven't logged in for a couple hours, you're following tens of thousands of people, you're not going to see all of the tweets that go by. It will highlight some of the most interesting tweets that happened since you've last logged in, or that have gained a lot of activity since you might have seen them. And then, of course, Facebook as well. They've got their own proprietary algorithm that helps you organize your social graph and see the activity from the people and organizations that Facebook thinks that you care about, and then, of course, from the advertisers that Facebook is paid to think you care about. And so they're interpolating all this advertising information in with data about your friends. The metrics that they use to measure their own performance generally are how long can they keep your eyeballs in front of that screen. And so, for instance, if they gave you a post that allowed you to go right out, put your screen down, go right down the block to that food truck, they have maybe failed on that metric, and that's not what they're designing their technology to do. They're designing their technology to keep you scrolling. So it's very important that you understand and are able to interrogate the algorithms that surround you and that mediate your activity. And then, as a software developer and someone who really sees the power of the web as a really positive force for humanity, I think it's also important to understand that you can participate in building these algorithms. You can participate in building the trust inputs that go into them, into understanding how that will affect other people's experience of information, and then, of course, in accessing that data and filtering it and building tools that allow yourself and the people around you to better understand the quality of information on the web. So what I think is that just as Google PageRank was a massive paradigm shift from the previous iterations of the search engine idea and the web directory idea, that we're ready to shift again. And we're ready to make a strong shift in the realm of personalized, trust-based mediation of data that's on the web. I think we're ready to switch to explicit trust instead of these fuzzy relationships. I think the Excite idea, one of the very first search engines, was we could determine how relevant a page was based on how close the words in your search query appeared together on the page. Cool. But what if I'm searching for Python in the world of badges, and I get one badge that is for programming and one badge that's for snake handling? These skills are not equivalent. I need to understand explicitly what badges are associated with the type of Python programming that I need in the role that I'm hiring for. And I need to know why that data is trustworthy. I think we're ready to build the technologies that can answer those questions. So I think what we do is we relate trust to the social graph and to the networks of subject experts. Right now you hear a lot about how university degrees are a black box. that people do not understand in the employment community understand what goes into a university degree. And so, how do we respond to that? I think one way that we respond to that is that we try and make the learning that happens in the university more visible, and we try and integrate more deeply with the the networks of subject experts that are within and without the institutions, to connect to the actual definitions of the skills that we're recognizing across both employment and education, so that we don't silo off any community of practice, and we can better cross-pollinate between all of them. I think badges or technology can do that. So, the goal here, I think, is to make these networks of expertise navigable by the average citizen of the web. So give tools that you or I could use, give tools people that aren't software developers particularly can use to understand achievement data, and answer those questions that we started off with about what features do badges provide. So I wanted to ask a couple questions sort of about, to consider about trust on the web right now, state of trust on the web. What are we doing wrong? So we have sites like, Snopes, PolitiFact. You've probably heard the concept of fake news recently, where, there are claims out there that particular journalistic or not very journalistic websites are making claims that are just completely non-factual. How do you evaluate a claim of made by a journalist or made by a politician claiming that a particular piece of journalism is fake news? What tools do you have available to us? Obviously, the tools that we have available to us are not as powerful or as fast spreading as some of the misconceptions themselves. I think we have a real difficulty in our information literacy at the moment, dealing with the fact that it's just so much easier to post than it is to evaluate, understand, and sort, filter. So some specific questions, where are we failing right now? What skills matter to different communities of practice and disciplinary experts? I think lots of specific communities have some definitions, but they're not very, they're not formalized, they're not necessarily published and accessible to others, and we don't necessarily see how they connect across these different communities. So one example, what does this particular degree, say I'm looking at a Bachelor's of Science in, I got a Bachelor of Arts in Political Science and English. What does that degree mean in terms of the skills that I've got that I can bring into the workplace or into the teams that I collaborate with? And then for particular badges or credentials, who accepts that credential for what? We don't have that information published for badges right now. And then, of course, a billions of dollars market question is, who should I hire? If you build software that can answer that question, you could potentially make quite a lot of money and provide a lot of value to businesses, helping them understand the applicants that are out there. So we have some difficulty with the current technology right now, but what are we getting right? I think a couple things here that we want to capture from the existing system of trust is that there is ease of accessing information about trustworthiness of an accurate document if you look. So for example, if you see a claim in a news article that you're not sure about or you want to learn more information about, you have search engines and tools that allow you to ask those questions and to get some results. And then one of the other really important things that I think we do really want to preserve from the PageRank paradigm shift is that the value that we measure in the web is primarily based on the things that everyday actors on the web create, just as a matter of what they do, how they operate on the web. So in the case of PageRank, it's posting links. In the case of badges, what do we have that is a parallel to posting links? And so then I had one of the questions, what can we throw out with bathwater? If we try to make a paradigm shift and answer more rich trust questions based on structured data and modeling some explicit relationships instead of these fuzzy words are close together type relationships, what are we at risk of losing that we really should try and preserve? One of those is the expanding potential of machine learning across big data. So if you give some of these neural network algorithms access to a large data set and you give it some initial modeling, then you can get some really interesting answers way faster than humans would be able to come up with them. I just saw a video this morning of Google's AI operating on some 3D models of little figurines, where they basically created a little ragdoll physics model and then just threw it into a virtual 3D space and then let the algorithm try and move the different legs and arms and stuff. And they gave it the initial goal of go from point A to point B, and that's all they told it. And it was able to, take something that looked like a little spider and figure out how to jump across gaps. And it was able to created a whole new way of walking for a human model that was all about really throwing your arms up in the air to counteract the shifts of weight between your legs. The machine learning can do some really interesting stuff, and we need to preserve the potential of that, but also at the same time we need to make sure that the data inputs are consistent with the permission of the people whose the data is about, especially when we're dealing with learning data that is very personal. We can't just let this data give companies that have profit motives free rein to deal with all educational data. The other thing is the ability for companies to move fast to act on the available data in the space to deliver a new type of thinking about it, a new way of filtering, and actual business intelligence for companies and educators, consumers, learners. We need to be able to make sure that a startup can go, build a little piece of software that answers a specific question for a niche audience very quickly and be able to respond to that, put that out into the market so people can use it. So let's talk a little bit about some updates to the Open Badges specification that I hope will help answer these questions in a more meaningful way. So first of all, to recap a little bit of that history of Open Badges, which started in around 2009 in the brains of the folks at the MacArthur Foundation, Connie Yowell, and others who were coming around with the idea of, how can we support connected learning with technology? For those who were at the Badge Summit in San Antonio a couple weeks ago, Connie gave a great keynote outlining that history. In 2014, after a couple of years of incubating within the Mozilla Foundation, the Badge Alliance was formed to help broaden the impact of badges, to expand the standard-making activity beyond a single organization and out into the community of practice of educators, software developers, and companies that are really interested in an open approach to educational data. And then as of the beginning of this year, that standard was transferred into IMS Global, which is a world-recognized standards body that focuses specifically on educational data standards. They drive some of the most important data interoperability standards in education, including LTI, which is the method of connecting your learning management system, like Moodle, Canvas, Blackboard, to a wide variety of learning applications that can be embedded right in the student's learning experience with with a frictionless sign-in process. So you can provision things like textbooks and other resources right into the courses where they need to be. So IMS Global is a great place to pick up some of the activity around the technical development of Open Badges. They've got the quarterly meetings. I know a number of folks from Penn State go to these IMS meetings, and they tend to be dry in some sense, but also really productive and filled with folks who care deeply about the future of technology and that we're building in the right way, collaborative way, and creating opportunities for one another. Then, as part of that transition, the Badge Alliance closed down, shifted some of its responsibility into the IMS global community. I had the privilege, as I mentioned, of leading the Badge Alliance for a year and a half to help affect this transition, to bring badges to this next level of formality within a sustainable, community-funded organization. IMS Global turned out to step forward to become a home for the specification, but they don't fulfill all of the functions that we had done in the badges community sort of under the Badge Alliance flag, particularly sort of organizing different parts of the community. So now we have organizations like the Open Recognition Alliance, which I participate in, Badge Chat K-12, led by Noah Geisel, and large part also Rich Dixon. Badge Chain, a group of researchers from the Open Badges core original crew who are investigating the intersection of blockchain technology and open badges. And then there's a large community forming at the W3C, an even larger standards body than IMS Global, around the idea that's called verifiable claims. And they're operating at a slightly different level than open badges, a little bit sort of closer to the middle, and not quite as about modeling the specific requirements of achievement, for instance, and totally compatible with open badges is the idea. So all of these communities operating together have a really strong, are building a really strong potential for open badges to be able to answer these hard questions coming up. So as I mentioned, IMS took over the specification as of the beginning of this year. And as of the beginning of this year, we began the process to finalize the 2.0 version of the specification, which has some interesting new capabilities for users of badges, some of them being, they fit into these categories. So the first one is new flexible metadata options. You can put more interesting structured data into the badge than before. Some properties that previously were just the URL, telling a human, go to this web page and look at it to try and understand what this is, now have structured data that is embedded in the badge, which is an opportunity for machines to more easily be able to understand the content of badges, and also just to be able to present that data more richly and closer to the badge wherever it travels around the web, without forcing people to click out of that product experience in order to go to some web page, read something in order to understand it. Another key point there is that we have the option of new recipient identifiers with 1.0, 1.1. Email was about the only option you had, so over the coming year you'll see some really big improvements around badges becoming flexible to work in other situations. So like you could award badges to people's Twitter handles or Facebook profiles, or public key, cryptographic key IDs, things like that. Any string that can identify a user could be the hook that you put into a badge to describe them. And one of the key parts of that is that open badges issuers may become recipients too. For a long time, there was this strange asymmetry between how you constructed an identity as an issuer versus how you constructed an identity as a recipient. And Open Badges 2.0 brings those back together so that any issuer may be a recipient, and any recipient may become an issuer. It's also some security improvements, part of our sort of long mission to make sure that when we say badges are verifiable, secure, and portable, that we're delivering on those promises, both for cryptographically signed badges and for the ones that are based on URL-hosted verification. One of the key things I'm going to talk about in a minute is endorsements, as I close, is a new system for adding trust information to badges that exist, building up notions of trust. And then we've adopted our JSON LD as the core data format for badges. It's very easy for developers to work with, and works very nicely for when you want to embed badges within other documents that use the JSON LD spec, or embed other documents and information that is out of the scope of the badges spec within badges. So the state of the Open Badges 2.0 rollout is that multiple platforms are implementing these features now. Badger, which we created from Centric Sky, now issues Open Badges in 2.0 format as an option and can accept badges that are issued elsewhere in 2.0 format. These improvements for around better flexibility, interoperability, and security mean that you can get, you can build tools that just are a much better experience for users of badges, particularly the earners and issuers. Upgrading an issuer to 2.0 is really easy. So if you know, for authors of those applications that were previously using badges, it's pretty easy to upgrade to 2.0 to start taking advantage of the new features. You know, just do the basic update first, and then you can add on the cool new features one by one as you need them. And then, of course, as I mentioned, security improvements around verification. So return to this question of what's the value of a badge, but with the 2.0 flavor in mind. How do open badges lay out a path to the answer to these different questions that we've been considering? First of all, you know, when we ask what's the value of a badge, we're breaking that down into a couple questions. You know, what does the badge mean? What achievement does it signify? And do I understand that skill or the thing that it aligns to? And so alignment to standards and shared values is really improving with badges, particularly in the complementary specifications that are developing in this space that describe the relationship between badges in addition to just the data about alignment to standards that is present in a badge itself. Like within a badge, you can use what's called the alignment object and say, this aligns to the multiplying fractions component of the Common Core state standards for 7th grade mathematics. In a standard like learning pathways that is coming up, and e-transcripts, we can say things like, here are a set of badges that a user earned within their progress through a particular education program. Now, here's their transcript of badges along the timeline and how those badges align to specific competencies that an institution cared about. And so the idea is to be able to deliver documents that have relationships between badges built in, and those can become some of the trust inputs into answering these questions about what's the value of a badge 2.0. And then, as I mentioned, endorsement that maps trust onto the social graph. The idea of an endorsement is anyone who participates in badges will be able to say, yeah, that's a good badge, or that issuer is very trustworthy. We can get sort of super providers of endorsements, like the traditional accreditors of institutions, to be able to say, yes, Penn State Mathematics Department in Altoona is certified, you know, this is that. This particular issuer profile on whatever platform they choose is authentically the organization it describes. That's one really important use case for endorsement, is just verifying identity. And then you go ahead.
Hey, I just need to interrupt real quick. We're getting close to the end of our hour. So this is a 2-minute warning, and then maybe we can move on to a couple questions.
Okay, I'll make some time for a little bit of questions. So. Hopefully it's not totally boring so far. So the Open Badges 2.0 lay out a path to answering these things by allowing us to put interesting data into the trust graph. So what do we build when we're trying to build an infrastructure for trust? And I come at this from a software development perspective. So you know, what I think is it's really easy to build siloed. It's easy to build if we don't want to collaborate with others. We collect data, we model it, we build the ability to query across that data, and we deliver some type of answer to our users when they ask a question. But in badges, our data is distributed. It's owned by many people. We very much respect the idea that recipients of badges should be able to have some control over their information, as well as the publishers of that data, the issuers. And so we need to admit that we have a distributed ecosystem, and we need to collaborate. So we do that with open standards. So when we have badges, what we're building is a set of core plumbing tools, which are the issuing applications, backpack tools like Badger, Open Badge Passport, and Mozilla Backpack that operate as a representative of the recipient in the space. And the next step of this idea, I think, is to connect these services as opposed to having what Mozilla has called floppy disk file transfer, where you download a badge and upload it into another platform and make it portable. Let's connect these and send the data directly per the permissions of the users. So having this backpack software that represents the users, the ability to connect different applications to it as an issuer or a displayer is what's going to really drive some potential. So what I think we need to build is a common protocol for doing that, to connect together and to make sure that we are getting data that we can build a trust graph on based on users' permissions, using the cool features of the Open Badges 2.0 stack to answer the questions about what badges are worth. And then, of course, to keep it simple, let's not bloat our software in these core plumbing roles. Let's move the value to the applications that are very purpose-driven, very close to the use cases, and very close to the questions that we're trying to answer. So those questions we're trying to answer around, what skills does a learner have, they can be answered by these services that connect to backpacks to build a data set to analyze over, and can answer questions like, what skills does a learner have, by understanding what alignments are in a badge, which organizations have defined those things. Pay attention real soon for there's a webinar at the end of next week that I'm giving on learning pathways, for instance, which is, as I mentioned, up and coming standard that can help answer some of these questions. Not only is that a data standard that describes data, we can build services around it that answer specific questions. And so we're making that standard open at Concentric Sky so that we can allow other organizations to be able to answer specific questions and to publish data that will work within our services. That we're going to build, some sort of larger compute engines to be able to help answer, hey, are these badges equivalent? What are the outcomes related to this badge? So stay tuned, jump on this URL, bit.ly pathways July 21 for registration for that webinar next week. We're working with block certs to add increased verifiability for blockchains. This is an example of a new standard layer that we can work with. And but overall, the idea is that we can build applications that answer specific questions based on common pools of data that has been granted to those applications, consistent with the permissions of the users, and we can, make another paradigm shift to be able to answer questions about, trust that relate to education and achievement that's so much more powerful than what we've got today, which is essentially the equivalent of the sort of hotbot excite style of web searching before PageRank came along and layer on trust information based on just the average inputs of the daily users, which I hope those average inputs will be essentially a bunch of badge awards and a bunch of endorsements across badge awards. So stay tuned to the ecosystem about all the different technologies that are coming to play and how these can connect, because it's really important that you'll be able to access all of the tools that we're building for this ecosystem very quickly and very easily, hopefully from your little backpack account. Log in, see all the tools that you can connect, log right in.
Well,
Cool. Thanks, Chris.
Thank you so much, Nate. I'd like to open it up to questions. You covered a lot, so I'm guessing that there's probably a lot of things that people want to talk about. I see.
Yeah, and so
right here.
first of all, feel free to contact me after this as well. I'd be happy to have short phone calls or just answer by email any questions that can go deeper than what we can hit in 2 minutes.
Yeah, so what would you say is the best way to practically learn how to do some of these? Is there like any tutorials that you can go to? It seems like you gave a really great overview of what they are, but practically for somebody like maybe who's a developer, where do you go to learn the documentation?
Sure. Yeah, so the first place to go to learn as a developer is the Open Badge spec site itself, to just learn about what metadata is there. And then I would recommend really joining the IMS community. There are free levels of joining that conversation as well as the paid tiers because it is community supported. So if you're a developer that wants to get involved in building with this stuff, come and talk with us where we're talking. For example, there's a meeting in Ann Arbor in August, the IMS quarterly meeting. There are components that are open to the public. You don't have to pay for IMS membership, you just have to pay for the conference fee. And they will be having 2 very public meetings like that every year. We have a bunch of other interesting conferences to come and talk, like there's the EPIC conference in Bologna, Italy in October, ePortfolios and Identity Conference run by Serge Gervais. That's a great one. Come talk to us. Let's build some cool stuff, particularly around this idea of protocols that connect so that we can, if you're a developer, we can get you into building a service that does interesting stuff with badges super quick, and you can just rely on high quality plumbing with the ecosystem. Even though it's distributed, we want to give you the high quality plumbing, just like you are making a connection to something like Slack, which is a centralized service, but it has just a nice clean API that does a few things really well.
And Nate, to add to that, wouldn't you also suggest keeping an eye on Doug Belshaw and some of his efforts? I know he's been really trying to make things very open for that community.
Oh, absolutely, and specifically around Doug Belshaw, he's doing what's called a wiki barn raising this month, and so we recommend go look up Doug Belshaw. He has a new forum where he's going to organize some of this activity around building wikis that help you understand badges better. So, as we want to understand more, we can also do that sort of by building with one another.
Okay.
Thank you very much for your presentation, and I have a question. Are there any differences between open badges and extra 500 directory services digital certificate?
I didn't quite hear the second half of the question. Differences between badges and some directory services?
Yes, extra 500 directory services digital certificate concept.
Sure. So, there's many other types of digital certificates that use different verification technology, and I think the important thing for our community to do is to pay attention to all the different initiatives that are going on and move toward compatibility over time. The technology will standardize, and doing it in open standards bodies is a great way to start so that we can eventually convert all the certificates that have verifiability into common formats. So for example, using Open Badges endorsement, you could wrap a certificate issued in a different format and make a claim about what that certificate is describing in the language of Open Badges so that you can essentially import that certificate as evidence of an Open Badges claim into any tool that can understand Open Badges. So there's multiple different paths toward compatibility for these things. We've got a good handful of standards out there right now, some of them that are open standards, some of them that are proprietary, but there's good conversations happening, especially between the W3C and IMS Global community to attack different layers of this ecosystem and build technology that works together, that adds new capabilities, and we don't step on each other's toes or try and solve the same problems in different ways. Like Open Badges tries to solve problems around describing achievements, and verifiable claims tries to solve problems around cryptographic discovery of identities related to signing keys, this different stuff that it works together very nicely if we just keep our wits about us and pay attention to what is going on in the ecosystem.
Okay, did you have a follow-up?
The international standardization is really important. So actually, based on the past history of the communications and the IT field, the international standards acceptance rate of each country is quite different. Like some countries quite open, other countries are not that open. So in that sense, personally, do you think how long does it take to make a truly global, interoperable international standard of kind of open badges?
Right. How long does it take is a great question. It will take, we're on a long multi-year journey, but I think what's really important in order to make it will happen sooner, but happen at all is the most important thing, is to build really high quality software and experiences for users. So build good learning programs that make use of badges very carefully, well designed, pay attention to what you're doing, and then build services that answer really useful questions. A lot of people, for example, they say that badges will never be worth anything until LinkedIn really supports them in a rich way. And I think that we can't wait for large companies, we can't wait for governments, we can't wait for international standardization at a very high level in order to start delivering good experiences. If we deliver good experiences using the opportunities that are available to us, then badges will grow and they will be successful, and they will be able to answer the interesting questions that have real business value and get the attention of those organizations that can't move as fast as startups and educators that are have an eye toward what will really matter in the future.